So let's get started here. Finesse fishing 24/7. The beauty of finesse fishing, and when most people think finesse fishing, you know, spinning rod, spinning reel. It doesn't always have to be a spinning rod and a spinning reel. It doesn't always have to be 4 and 6 pound test. When I think finesse fishing, I'm thinking 4, 6, 8 pound test max. Finesse fishing out here on this dirty river system can be 10 and 12 pound test. Just downsize, 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 downsize. Instead of the 1/2 and 5/8 ounce flipping jig, flip a little 1/4 ounce, a little, you know, a more compact style jig. Beauty of finesse fishing, it does not discriminate between spotted bass, largemouth bass, and smallmouth bass alike. Every single one of these fish, this one was 2 weeks ago, a big giant spot on a little mega bass swim bait, little spark shad, about 5 pound spotted bass on a spinning rod and reel. That top one's a 6 pound smallmouth. Again, finesse fishing. And then this one's really cool. This was a California Delta tournament a couple weeks ago, or a couple years ago, I should say. That's a 12 pounder and an 8 pounder. One was caught on a giant swim bait and one was caught on a drop shot. You tell me which was which. You would think the 12 pounder ate a swim bait, but that 8 pounder ate a swim bait, 12 pounder ate a drop shot. So doesn't discriminate. Largemouth, giant largemouth, small largemouth, spotted bass, smallmouth bass. Finesse fishing is just a very natural type presentation, and that's I can't drill that home enough. It's so natural. If you get it within, you know, these finesse lures, if you get it within a 5 foot or 10 foot radius of that fish, more than likely it's going to bite. So it's up to you to place it there. So no discrimination throughout the species. This is kind of cool. This little definition of finesse. Extreme delicacy or subtlety in action. That's a huge key. Subtlety in action, performance skill, discrimination, taste, etc. But subtlety in action. You see a lot of these creature baits and jig trailers and stuff. They got a lot of action, a lot of movement. These rage craws and this and that. A lot of movement, a lot of action. Curly tail worms and big swim baits, big tails. Subtlety in action, finesse fishing. A lot of times we're talking straight-tailed worms, tiny little grubs, straight-tailed, you know, Senkos, straight worms, not a lot of action, subtlety in action. Why should we consider finesse fishing 24/7? Why should we consider it every single time we go out? Why should we consider it every tournament or every Saturday? You know, why should we grab a hold of that spinning reel every single time? I mean, just bottom line, lighter line means more bites, period. And, you know, I use a lot of the 6 pound, 8 pound test Seaguar Tatsu. Love that. I've become a fluorocarbon snob over the last few years. That's the best fluorocarbon. It's the thinnest, strongest, most soft and supple line, that Seaguar Tatsu. When I say lighter line means more bites. And when I go to light line, when I go to 6 pound and sometimes 4 pound test, it's not that I don't want that fish to see the line. You know, I'm not worried about him seeing the line and being line shy and said, oh, I'm not going to bite that little worm because, you know, I can see the line. I could care less about that when we're talking 6 and 8 pound tests. It's thin anyways. When I talk about lighter line means more bites, I mean the diameter is so thin, there's less water restriction there. It restricts the lure that you're throwing or working or shaking. It restricts that lure less. You know, there's less memory in the line. It's just so paper thin, super, super thin, that the nose of that worm when you're drop shotting or the head of that little tiny swim bait, it restricts that bait less. It falls to the bottom quicker. The smaller the line, the quicker that bait falls and the less restricted that bait is, which means it's super natural. I mean, it's absolutely the most natural appearance you could ever see. And if you don't believe me, the next time you're at a fishing show and you see those little aquariums, and they got different baits and stuff on there, and a lot of times you'll see the line. It's like 8, you know, a lot of times they'll have 10, 12 pound tests, and when they're testing lures in these tanks, you'll see the line. It actually goes in the water, and you can see all the little kinks and the turns in the line, 12, 15, 20 pound test. But when you drop a 6 or, you know, 8, 6 or 4 pound test in there, it's very soft, limp, and natural looking. So those little keys make a difference, especially out here, Lake Martin, clear water situations. Why else to consider finesse fishing, spinning rods, finesse tactics? Pressures always rise. I say pressures because there's 2 types of pressures that we fear as anglers, or we got to be aware of as anglers. Fishing pressure for one, I know some of the other guys talked about it, but fishing pressure. I mean, everyone fishes these spots and everyone fishes these lakes, and so fishing pressure, be aware. There's a lot of people, you know, in and out of areas, so the smaller we go, the better off we are. We get more bites. So fishing pressure for one, you got to be aware of that. And then also the high pressure.
Welcome to Bass University TV, an online video training course where you'll learn champion bass fishing techniques from pro anglers Pete Glusek, Mike Iaconelli, and their talented special guests. From on the water to in the classroom, you'll learn sound techniques and strong fundamental bass fishing skills. Watch hours of video content on multiple topics at your own pace for a low monthly fee. Cancel at any time. Information is power in the sport of fishing, so learn from the very best. Subscribe to Bass University TV today.